What's up everyone, it's Sprometheus, and today I am finally making good on my promise to put the Cafelat Robot up against the Flair. But I'm not going to put it up against the Flair Pro, that's been done a couple times over at this point. Today, I'm putting it up against the new kid on the block, the Flair 58. Now before you get caught up in your feelings thinking that maybe this isn't a fair fight, let's review some of the details. Both machines are in a similar price range, both machines have a removable portafilter allowing for a similar workflow, and both machines achieve proper pressure up to and well beyond espresso range. And both machines have an equally fanatic fan base, so it seems only right that I put these two up against each other. Of course, like all comparisons, there's always going to be some elephant in the room, and for this one, the Flair 58 does have a bit of an advantage when it comes to preheating and thermal stability with its electronic controller. But if you ask the robot diehards, they'll argue that preheating isn't even all that necessary, and even though I disagree, I still think that this is a pretty solid comparison. But with that in mind, and the fact that Flair is now dropping a 58 without the electronic heating components, I think it's becoming less of a difference and more of a preference. But in the spirit of fair competition and true comparison, I'll still touch base on the preheat routine and thermal stability, but when it comes to my final thoughts and recommendations, it'll be focused purely on their ease of use in terms of ergonomics, design, shot preparation and execution, and of course their shot quality. But first, a quick word from this video's sponsor, Standart Magazine. Standart's mission is to connect the world through a love of coffee, and they accomplish that by bringing it directly to your fingertips. In an increasingly digital world, Standart sees the value of a real tangible product you can touch. Each issue from front to back is a labor of love. The text, photographs, and illustrations are designed to interest, intrigue, and entertain everyone, not just coffee people. Each issue also comes with a sample of coffee from some of the world's best roasters and a satisfaction guarantee. So what do you got to lose? Hit the Standart link in the description or head to standartmag.com/Prometheus to snag a year subscription with free shipping and support the channel. Even though, as you probably noticed, the preheating portion of the manual espresso routine is a somewhat controversial topic, but I still think it's worth touching base on how these two machines compare on this front. The Flair 58 uses an electronic controller, and the robot uses a hot water soak or steam from your kettle. Both will heat up well over to 100 degrees Fahrenheit or 38 degrees Celsius in a short period of time, about 2 to 3 minutes. But the big difference is how they maintain their temperature. And of course, the constant internal heat from the Flair will always win on this front. So with that being said, you're left with the question, does this really matter? And the answer to that is, it depends. For me, I often, if not always, use light to medium roasts, and they scientifically benefit in terms of extraction from a hotter pull. But if you go for more of the dark to medium range, you may be perfectly happy with what you'll produce from either machine with or without a preheat. Preparing a shot for both of these machines is pretty similar. They both utilize a portafilter, which allows for a familiar workflow and cleaning experience for those who have used a traditional espresso machine. But the similarities seem to disappear when it comes to where the job of the portafilter starts and where it ends. When it comes to the Flair 58, the portafilter acts just as it would for a traditional espresso machine. The coffee goes in, you work whatever magic you want to do with the grinds using whatever tools you deem appropriate, drop in the dispersion screen, then it's locked into the machine and ready to pull. The robot's portafilter, on the other hand, plays a bit more of a dual role in the whole process. Just like the 58, your grinds go in, get distributed and tamped, and then you drop in your screen. But the tall walls will prevent you from using most tools and accessories. But the reason for that is it also acts as your brew cylinder, so water goes in with your grinds prior to being placed into the machine and then pressed out. Speaking of pressing, both the 58 and the robot have their own distinct lever design. The Flair stuck with their original single lever setup and added a handle for more control and comfort through the entire shot and range of pressures. The robot utilizes a 2-arm tandem press that just doesn't feel as natural, and the lack of handles in place for these metal Lego hands just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Generally, the process of pulling a shot on either of these machines is pretty similar outside of those differences in design. But when it comes to preparation and workflow, I think the Flair 58 takes the win for a few reasons. Not only will its more traditional portafilter allow for more variety in tools and baskets, but it also is just more comfortable and just feels better in the hand. Holding the robot's portafilter really doesn't give me those barista tingles, it feels more like holding a measuring cup. This also extends to the usability and ease of the 58's lever. It actually feels more like an effortless push than this two-handed lateral press. The moral of the story is here, ergonomics matter. Now, this is where things get a bit tricky, and if you've been following the channel for a while, I don't really often dive into taste too deeply because it's such a personal preference. But in terms of these two machines, I've been pulling shots on them for a bit now, and it's a tight race. Pulling the same coffee side by side on as close to the same pressure profile as possible didn't produce what I would consider a better shot on either side. But what I did find is there's a small difference in the shots I produced on the Robot versus the shots from the Flair 58. Between the two, the Robot seems to produce a bit more texture in the cup, versus the Flair's slightly more complex flavor. Both machines are highly capable of pleasing any espresso lover, and I don't think necessarily that the shot quality is what sets them apart, and if that's what you're looking for as a consumer, I don't think there's a loser on either side. In terms of manual lever espresso machines, the Flair 58 and the Robot are at the very tip top of that food chain. Each were obviously carefully engineered to brew proper espresso, but each design also shows where the line between aesthetics and engineering was drawn. The Robot, with its glossy paint, color options, and cute retro looks, undoubtedly makes it a conversation piece for any kitchen. But these design choices limits its comfort of use, which I feel holds it back from being that raw lever espresso experience I want my manual machines to be. The Flair 58 comes off as the more industrial option. Its matte black steel construction and minimal accents helps keep the focus on utility versus aesthetics. Don't get me wrong, it's not ugly, it's just not pretty either. Personally, I enjoy both for what they are, but no reasonable person needs both. And if I were to recommend one based off its overall performance from start to finish, I'd say that the 58 just feels more visceral, more substantial, and just overall easier and more comfortable to use. But with that said, I think it's time for me to stop talking and for you to start. Let me know your thoughts on this video. Do you agree, disagree, why or why not? Let me know that and whatever other coffee thoughts you may have in the comment section right down in this region here. And of course, I'll see you next week. And of course, a big thank you to my May Patreons, Ads, Jacob P, Christopher, Squeegee Rowe, Brian, Lisa, Andre, Sean Noel, Spookus, Samantha, Claire, Stephen, Kendall, Bound Coffee, James K, Josh Horrison, Corey C. Curry, Jeff Roth, Joey N, Thomas B, UK Espresso, Tim, Jason C, Jerry, Matt, Ray, Ninja Warrior Coffee, Home Barista Coach, Gumby, Testing 123, Zachary V, Tyler F, Robert Underdunk, Jeffrey R, BJK Cafe, Chris M, Daniel P, Mike B, Brian M, Brandon B, Tyler M, Sebastian, Matthew C, JRC, Absolute, Stephen G, Alex T, Jose, Lauren, Keefe, Stephen A, and Jacob, and of course a big thank you to the barista and barback tiers. If you want any information on my Patreon, there's a link in the description and in the upper right hand corner right now. And of course, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit that little bell button for notifications of new videos posted every Friday. Follow my Instagram at Sprometheus for content throughout the week, my blog at Sprometheus.com, my coffee at littlegiant.coffee, and as always, stay caffeinated. Pony Boy.